Humans live from, on, and with water. Rivers, canals, lake regions. They have shaped our culture for centuries. They are a place to live, transport arteries, and sources of energy. On 5 journeys, we discover the waterways of Europe. We venture upstream on watercourses broad and narrow in canoes, boats, and ships. Along the way, new projects for the future of water in Europe. Today, the water takes us through northern Italy. Starting in the lagoon city of Venice, we travel Italy's longest river, the Po. From its delta, we travel by way of Cremona, Vercelli and Turin up to its source in the Cottian Alps. Venice, a city in a lagoon, built on millions of wooden piles, is our starting point for a river journey through northern Italy. How do people live on and with water today? What is the purpose of rivers and canals? And what challenges will we need to confront in the future if watercourses change with the climate? The headquarters of the Venice Tide Office are located in a palazzo on the Canale Grande. Meteorologist Marco Favaro and his colleagues monitor the weather and tidal range around the clock.
When it comes to the water level, Venice is very sensitive by nature. Over the centuries, pedestrian paths, streets and squares have been raised continually, adapting to the rising water level.
Small octagonal wooden booths are stationed in many parts of the city, measuring stations that are part of an early warning system. The electronics in the booths continuously send current data to the headquarters. Marco Favaro and his colleagues regularly check whether the system is working reliably. A precise forecast of ebb and flow is increasingly important, for Venice is gradually sinking.
Into the 1970s and 80s, flooding was seasonal and more prevalent in autumn, winter and spring. In summer, we almost never had flooding. Tomorrow night, for example, we expect a rise of 105 centimeters. It is now May. That practically never happened before.
The city has little to counter the hazards of acqua alta, apart from its early warning system. Many roofs in Venice, like here on the Opera House, are outfitted with large speakers that Marco Favaro can use to sound the alarm. Testing the system is part of his inspection run. Instead of wailing sirens, he likes to play classical music so that no one is alarmed. Today, it's an aria from Puccini. Venice's future is uncertain. The city's foundation is sinking, while sea levels are rising all around the world.
I do view the future with some concern, but I think that because of the great beauty and history of Venice, enormous efforts will probably be undertaken to save it. Whereas it will probably be necessary to give up other coastal areas. People will certainly attempt to resist as long as possible, but in all honesty, no one knows how it will end.
Far out, where the lagoon opens up to the sea, a tidal barrier called mussel is being erected to the tune of billions of euros. The uncompleted Giga project, whose launch has been repeatedly delayed, is beset by political scandals and corruption. Experts disagree on how effective it will be against flooding. Marco Favaro drives far out into the bay to check remote measuring stations. Out here, there is no trace of the hectic bustle and throng of tourists. Just beyond Venice's lagoon is a paradise for birds. Mediterranean gulls brood in their thousands. Sea swallows and flamingos also frequent the coastal landscape. This is where Italy's longest river flows into the Mediterranean, the Po. A local fisherman takes us through the delta and its marshlands. The water is scarcely deeper than half a meter. It's a world between land and sea. It is also the realm of the clam fishermen, whose wooden huts rise above the lagoons on stilts. Clams are an important commodity here. The crustaceans are sucked up from the sea floor with large pumps. Imported from the Philippines, this species was introduced in the 1970s. They reproduce especially well in the lagoons of the delta. The clams are sorted by size on the boat before being delivered fresh to restaurants nearby. The fish restaurant in Marinetta is situated on a spit of land. The chef specializes in seafood from the region.
These are our clams. We check every single one to see if they are sandy. Deglaze. Just watch them as they open up. Wonderful. Do you see that?
Today the restaurant is closed. Time for a test meal with the owner. Clams in a risotto dish, served with a sparkling white wine from the region.
It's good, isn't it?
The Po Delta encompasses roughly 380 square kilometers and consists of 4 branches, between which there are small and large islands. Its area grows continuously as the river washes up mud, sand and gravel. It is a human-made area drained over centuries for farming. The journey heads upstream along the Po. After a few kilometers, a curious river crossing appears in a side channel. It is a rather antiquated-looking car bridge. Its foundation consists of 14 boats, and the driving surface is wooden planks. But bridge keeper Roberto Bolzoni, who has been tending to the structure for over 30 years, knows about its flexibility and the benefits that such a construction can have.
The special thing about this bridge is that it was the first that could be moved from place to place, depending on the current water level. If you wanted to move it, you would do it by hand. It took 6 people. Today, the bridge is permanently moored to its position, so it's no longer so much work for those involved. These movements were a lot of work and only possible with several men, but it did allow us to react to every water level situation.
Today, it's all much easier. Instead of pulling the bridge up or downstream manually, Roberto Bolzoni can raise or lower it in place with hydraulics. He just has to check from time to time whether everything is in working order and that the boats aren't taking on water. His work has, at times, become more monotonous.
This bridge is staffed 24 hours a day, partly because the water level can change, but also to monitor the lorry traffic. Lorries are absolutely not permitted to drive over it because the structure could break. So my colleagues and I are mainly here to prevent damage.
We leave the side channel and continue upstream, always westward. Progress is quick in a motorboat. Here the Po is wide, deep and navigable thanks to its 141 tributaries. The biggest part of the route to the Alps passes through the Pianura Padana, a broad plain formed by the water. It is considered the most important agricultural and industrial region in Italy. Cremona lies a few hours ahead. The city is principally known for its long tradition of violin making. Hundreds of years ago, Antonio Stradivari had tree trunks from South Tyrol sent here, floating down the river, and built stringed instruments of world-renowned quality. The place still draws on the legendary reputation of Stradivari today. Maestro Angelo Sperzaga teaches the venerable craft at Cremona's International School of Violin Making.
We believe that the long journey of the wood on the rivers down to Cremona contributed to the extraordinary acoustics of the instruments of Stradivari, Guarneri, and Amati.
It is presumed that the river flushed impurities out of the wood and closed the pores. Even now, the freshly built instruments are sealed by applying water and dissolved resin. At the State Trade School, it is not only locals learning to build musical instruments. Pupils come from around the world. The standards are high. Cremona has to defend its international reputation as the capital of violin making.
The challenge is creating an instrument out of a simple piece of wood, breathing life into it, and accomplishing a work of outstanding quality.
Sarà anche impossibile perché qui come lo vedi, sì, ciao. Insegniamo ai nostri studenti.
We instruct our pupils in the old tradition, but we also research and experiment. In Cremona, we still build our instruments by the method of the old violin makers and use the same materials and tools.
Angelo Sperzaga himself learnt at the school. Today he shares his knowledge with others. For Cremona, where so much still revolves around violins, his mission is also a daily struggle for quality and the preservation of traditions. After all, the competition abroad is rising fast. A few kilometers upstream stands one of the largest hydropower plants in the country. It has been producing renewable energy for over 60 years. But for a long time, the plant disconnected the habitats of local fish and threatened to destroy local biodiversity. A well-funded project provided help. At the edge of the complex, there is now a fish ladder to help migratory species get upstream. Via the 83 concrete segments, fish can once again migrate to their original spawning grounds. The Po ecosystem is fragile, and introduced species also threaten its balance. Giuseppe Errani is on the hunt for the huge Wells catfish. He is a professional sport fisherman and at home on the water since childhood.
When I go fishing on the Po alone in nature, it is beautiful. It's huge, as you can see. I take my little boat, my dog, and off we go. I encourage everyone to come here sometime.
With two friends, he aims to haul in the big fish today. Giuseppe's friends have got things ready. They have placed the bait, tightened the ropes, and activated the alarms on their rods. Catching a Wells catfish demands a certain professionalism. Now, the weather just has to play along.
The Wells catfish came to us in the 1980s from the Danube region. We don't know exactly how, and it has spread all over. It has adapted and is reproducing fast. People say it is damaging and destroys everything, but that is absolutely not true. It is a fish like many others, a predator that feeds on other fish. It is large, so maybe it eats a bit more. There are stories about it eating dogs and children, but all that is not true.
Now, it's all about waiting.
Fabio! Vieni, vieni.
The hunt for the Wells catfish demands strength and dexterity. A fully grown specimen can be over 2 meters long and weigh up to 100 kilos.
To catch whales, you have to scope out the area first. We learn where they linger, what they eat. Today, I'll use a bait of this length. Tomorrow, one like that. The whale's catfish is smart. If it has swallowed one bait, it will avoid it in the future. So I need a different technique. You always have to be smarter than the fish. Although I catch a lot of fish, when I get a big on the line, which is what we call fish over 2 meters, it's always like the first time. Adrenaline, strong emotions, and maximum effort, and when we release it, the feeling is even stronger. It's always like the first time and always great.
Fishing for the whales has become a popular sport on the Po. It's all about length, weight, and records.
Questo big fish.
Well, 2 meters and 2 meters 20.
2 metri e 20 e 1 metro e 77.
And this one? Perfect, 180. When you catch a 2-meter fish, after the battle you feel, hey, I was smarter. And then, of course, we release the fish. If you're a fisher, you might have the pleasure with it again, like me.
In the end, there is also the souvenir photo for the social networks. Then, the giant is released back into its muddy hunting grounds. Good for the fish, but not so good for the biodiversity in the Po River. We continue onwards towards the Alps. The closer the mountains get, the less navigable the river is, and the bigger its sandbars become. The journey passes Casale Monferrator in Piedmont. The one-time fortress is surrounded by the Montferrat hills. Casale Monferrato is home to the Amici del Po Club, in English, Friends of the Po. It's a group of water enthusiasts who host events around the river in their free time. Today, a small group is gathering for an aperitivo at the riverside property of a club member. The aperitivo is an institution in many parts of northern Italy. It refers not only to the drink, but also the hors d'oeuvres served with it, and the friendly get-together before everyone heads home for dinner. Just after Casale Monferrato, there's a weir that is impassable for boats. A part of the river branches off here, guided into a canal. Its destination is nearby rice fields. Italy is Europe's biggest producer of the granular staple. The province of Vercelli has flat fields and sufficient water for cultivation. Flooded fields characterize the area now, but it was not always like this. Centuries ago, monks leveled the once hilly landscape to make it easier to till the fields. On the move through the farming land with an acquaiolo. That's what the specialists for watering the farmland are called. This one is the master of over 25 hectares of farmland. With his expertise, he decides when the water should be turned on or off. He operates dozens of locks and weirs every day to ensure the perfect level for every growth phase of the plants. He also has to check the condition of the dikes. Every now and then, beavers and otters implement their own projects here and can wipe out a whole crop. Rice has been grown in Italy for over 500 years. One of the oldest estates is the former Cistercian Abbey Lucedio, founded in the 12th century. The grounds and surrounding fields are now owned by the family of Count Paolo Salvadori di Wiesenhof.
My mother is a descendant of the Marquis of Monferrator who gave the land to the monks around 1100. We have been associated with Lucedio for almost 900 years. My grandfather bought it back 80 or 90 years ago. We feel a strong connection to Lucedio, which can be seen in the renovation which we began 20 years ago and is now almost complete.
The monks had their herb garden in the restored courtyard. It is assumed that in addition to medicinal herbs, they also grew rice and quickly noted its great potential. Lucedio became rich and often changed hands over the centuries. Bishops, popes, princes, and even Napoleon left their mark on the abbey. It's a puzzle for the experts trying to keep the different layers of the eras apart.
The renovation was very complicated considering the size of the estate, as all the ownership changes over the centuries led to changes to the buildings. We researched which parts were from the Middle Ages and which were from the Baroque period. In its 900-year history, there were many restructuring efforts that became necessary over time.
Up until the 1950s, hundreds of seasonal workers toiled in the fields. Everything was done by hand. Today, a mere 4 employees handle all the work using GPS-controlled machinery.
Our challenge is to produce a high-quality product. The European Union no longer protects us farmers against international competition. Prices are uncontrolled and we all have to persuade the market of the superiority and quality of Italian rice.
The Po Valley is a cultural landscape shaped to accommodate the needs of people and their food production. And yet, it is also a place of sanctuary for many animals, especially birds. The ibis rests here on its long journey to Egypt and finds abundant food: insect larvae, small crabs, and mollusks. For lapwings, recognizable for their long crests, watered fields are ideal brooding and rearing grounds. The cattle egret is primarily at home in Africa, but is increasingly found in the wetlands of southern Europe as well. The journey continues towards the Alps. The Po now flows through Turin, once the seat of the Kingdom of Italy, today home to Fiat, and a highly livable big city. This may be due in part to the big river that shapes the center. Turin is one of the birthplaces of Italian rowing. The venerable club Caprera has resided here for 130 years. A boat builder has set up his workshop in the garage of the club. After a Po flood destroyed his old studio, Marcello Renna now builds his boats directly on the club grounds.
I build rowing boats. I get so into it that I don't notice the hours passing. I see myself as a river craftsman, a builder who loves his job.
Marcello creates parts of his boats out of Kevlar and carbon. It's high-tech work, craftsmanship of the highest level. He glues layer after layer and then shapes the components of the rowing boat in a vacuum. The boats are tested directly on site by the customers themselves.
The big manufacturers have standardized production lines, but I can work together with the customers to find custom solutions.
Marcello Renna's customers, often former professionals, don't want boats off the rack. They want to have a say in the development, design, and test phase. The preferred test area for his models is, naturally, the Po. There is no commercial shipping on the Po and no pleasure steamers either. The waters here belong to the athletes.
The Po, like other big rivers and cities like Turin, is very important because it allows people to experience very special moments. Us water sports fans in particular, the river is a paradise.
It's also because the Po here is flanked by parks and green spaces. We pass the medieval village Borgo Medievale. It is a recreation erected for the Turin Expo in 1884. A few kilometers further, Turin's water utility called SMAT. In operation since 1959, it draws a good portion of its drinking water from the Po. The water is drawn directly on the banks next to the plant. Various early warning systems provide continuous information about contamination. Living fish and mussels are especially effective. If they're not doing well, the system sounds the alarm.
Anche perché le altre sono abbastanza...
Sarebbe distaccato tutto il mite,
Ok.
nell'acqua.
Sì, perché forse probabilmente...
A majority of the drinking water comes from the depths and via pipelines, which conduct the cool water from the source of the Po in the mountains to the city. Beyond Turin, the Po grows increasingly narrow. It is no longer navigable here, even with shallow draft boats. Depending on the water level and the current amount of rainfall in the mountains, the journey may be attempted in a canoe, but even that is impossible now. The Cottian Alps appear in the background. The longest river in Italy emerges from one of these cloud-draped valleys. We now climb steeply through the Valle del Po. The route can only be managed by car or foot. It's not far to the source now. Francesca Bona and Stefano Fenoglio teach applied ecology at the University of Turin. In the source region, they conduct long-term studies addressing the questions of whether and how alpine rivers are threatened by climate change. The Po is also fed by glaciers, rainwater and snowfall, but all of that is decreasing in the Alps.
The source region is very interesting for us. Here we can investigate the quality of the ecosystem at its very start, before human influences come into play. It is essentially our reference point.
This place serves us as a control point. We can compare the intact environment with points further downstream in nearby valleys.
On their excursions, Francesca Bona and Stefano Fenoglio investigate such different things as oxygen and nutrient levels, flow rates, and the load of microorganisms per litre of water. Over a period of several years, a picture has emerged that shows stark changes in the aquatic milieu.
The type of precipitation has changed, and thus also the life in the rivers. Alpine waters are becoming increasingly Mediterranean. In the Mediterranean region, watercourses had millions of years to adapt on the biological level. The streams and rivers in the mountains didn't. This change to the habitat leads to a breakdown of biodiversity.
With a landing net, they also catch insects to gather information about the biodiversity of the Po. Now in spring, the river should actually be gushing more vigorously. Glaciers, Europe's biggest store of fresh water, feed Alpine waterways. But with the overall decline of snow and ice, the system has begun to wobble.
The fresh water that we have at our disposal is very little. Worldwide, only 0.0002% is even drinkable. And that's exactly why we have to protect it.
The important thing is that we talk about it and get to know rivers better, which are so fundamentally important to our lives.
Our final stage takes us ever further up the Valle del Po, up to approximately 2,000 meters. In its first kilometers, the river is as wild as a mountain stream. It only attains its full size through its many tributaries along the way to the sea. Here, at the Alpine source of the Po, our journey through northern Italy comes to an end. Over 650 kilometers, the biggest Italian river has shown that it is more than just a waterway. It's important for the agriculture, culture, and history of an entire region. It is the home of important ecosystems and carries so much debris that the land at its mouth is continuously extending further into the sea. Only time will tell how climatic changes here in the Alps will impact the Po and its enormous catchment area.